Hi there, and welcome back to part 2 of making the Fairbairns-Sykes fighting knife. As you can see here in the picture, this is the general diagram for what the knife was originally intended to look like or designed as. There's a lot of different dimensions, and this picture is really kind of hard to see these precise dimensions, but we're going to do the best that we can. So what we're going to work on here is, in this video, is the back end of it, the handle, the guard, and the pommel nut. And I'm going to try to stay as true to the original design as I possibly can. I may have to take some creative liberties, but it is what it is. For the guard, I am going to use this piece of makume gane, I think I said that right, as the guard itself. It's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe just a little bit thicker in some spots, but that's what the picture looks like it says, so that's what I'm going to go with. For the handle, I'm going to use this piece of carbon fiber from Carbon Waves. I think that's going to really add a nice touch to it. And then for the pommel nut, I'm going to use this piece of another piece of this makume gane. This was made from a stack of quarters, and that's what this will be, is the pommel nut. So stick around and let's see what we can make. To get started, we're going to go ahead and cut out our guard, or at least as close to it as we can, without actually going to the final shape. Or at least that's what I was trying to do here, anyway. Okay, so we're going to pause that right there. That process did not go as planned. I ended up taking that from about 1/8 of an inch down to like a 32nd of an inch, and it was way too thin. So we're going to shift gears and change over to trying to do a quarter stack again. This particular stack of quarters is from a different project that I tried and didn't really have great success. So we're going to put it in the forge and heat it up. Then we're going to lightly press these down so they kind of start to stick all together. This was a really kind of painful process, but it came out okay. So here what we're trying to do is get to that final thickness a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch. Now that we've got the whole stack together finally, I'm just kind of cleaning off the edges to see if there's any deformities or something that may have gone wrong with it. And then it's on to our favorite topic. More hand sanding. In reality, though, what I'm trying to do is make that guard flat as I possibly can. That way we get set up for the next step, which is finding the center of our guard piece. Then center punching it so we can drill. On to drilling. And then we're just going to clean it up with the mill. The technique here that I'm using is a kind of a hot fit. It kind of is a hit or miss, and this time it did pretty good. I was pretty happy with the end result. And as you can see here, it gave that shape of the blade where the ricasso or that ricasso area is, which really set us up for scribing what the final shape of the guard is going to look like. Then we're going to go ahead and grind it to the shape that we're actually looking for, and back to hand sanding to make it nice and shiny. I was really nervous about this part, because if you get carbon fiber too hot when you cut it, it can start to deform. I actually had to contact the manufacturer to see how to cut it, and all I'm doing is cooling it down, small cuts, and cooling it down. I ended up needing to have a spacer, actually, on this one, between the carbon fiber pieces where the tang goes, so I'm using some black G10 here, and it really added a very nice contrast to the entire piece. But before we epoxy all these pieces together, we got to make sure they're flat, or as flat as we can get them. Here all we're doing is just adding clips. The G10 is actually, that's those two chopstick looking parts there. And the clamps just help to keep everything together. Now that the epoxy is cured, we can go ahead and start the process of shaping the handle. This is a new process that I'm going to be trying for the first time ever. This is called bedding the tang. Ultimately, what you see me doing is applying petroleum jelly to the tang before I put it into a already filled handle that has a bunch of epoxy in it. And 2 points for me for getting the residual back into the cup. Now that the blade is prepared and the tang is bedded, or at least seated, we set it up and try to make it just right, and then we pray. Once the epoxy is cured, we remove the blade from the handle. So what I've done here is I printed out the actual dimensions or the pattern of the handle as close as I could to the actual size, and then just removed a bunch of material, at least as close as we could get to the actual shape. Because we're using a pommel nut for this blade, we actually have to thread the end of the tang. Once I've done that, I put on what's going to be the pommel nut, and I scribe a basic circle around it so I can start the grinding process. Now that everything's to its approximately the shape that we want it at, we go back to hand sanding and get that handle down to exactly how we want it. At this point in the build, we start to get an idea of what the handle is going to look like once it's completed. And if you haven't figured out by now, carbon fiber is messy. Off camera, I went ahead and etched my maker's mark, and here we're just cleaning it up to make it stand out. And now it's time to put an edge on the blade. The cutting edge for this blade goes all the way from the ricasso area all the way to the point. I will say that when it comes apart like this, it's much easier to sharpen. And here we are to final assembly. I really learned a lot in this build, and I'm overall pretty happy with the end result. I'll be taking this blade to the Texas Select Custom Cutlery event, which is in Belleville, Texas, and I'm going to enter this into the Dagger competition. Wish me luck. Well, you've made it to the end of part 2, and it surely is appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you subscribe today. Whether you're an existing subscriber or you're new to the channel, I sure would appreciate it if you hit the like button and leave me a comment. I try really hard to answer all the comments I get. I've got a lot of projects in the work, and I sure do hope you come back to the channel and you see what we're building next time. Until then, thank you for your time.